Peace, what's going down? It's DJ Pain One here with a very special guest. It's one of the few interviews you've done, right?
Yes.
So when I say
I
it's
don't.
exclusive, I actually mean it this time. We got Xay Scott, a man who has a hell of a story and an equally crazy resume. Uh, good afternoon, bro. How you doing?
I'm great, man. How you doing?
I can't complain. I ate a big brunch. Um, so we won't get too much into your history because I know it's a new year and it's a new start.
Okay.
But I just want to start with this quick question because nowadays I'd say producer collaboration has really increased. I mean, even me, I'm collaborating with producers across the world now. Obviously, the internet makes that easy, but I just think collaboration overall is just happening more frequently. And a lot of us will collaborate with a producer here and there, but you've actually collaborated with a pretty high profile producer time and time again. And I'm referring to Lex Luger. How did that all come about?
Lex Luger. Actually, I was working with an artist. I want to say back in around 2014. His name is Nico, and he was actually doing an EP with Lex Luger. And it came down to a situation like every time we kept trying to link, it was happening. And long story short, we found out he was gonna be at a Webster Hall, and we just pulled up, and I got to meet him, and that's basically how that relationship started. We didn't actually get officially in the studio though until the following year in 2015.
So, what are some of the records that you produced with him during that time?
Um, I mean, for the most part, I mean the biggest one that's actually out right now is 7 a.m. by Lil Uzi Vert.
Did you link with Lil Uzi Vert, being that you're all kind of from the general region?
No, actually, no. I collab with a we actually I sent a file that me and Lex Luger started to another producer, DP Beats, and he actually finished it up and sent it to Uzi. I actually didn't know the record was out until 3 weeks after it came out.
Do you think that's just kind of a consequence of the new way of releasing music, the whole mixtape as an album system?
I mean, kinda, sorta, but then I gotta put myself at fault for not being more diligent. You know what I mean, on keeping track of my record.
So I guess let's get right into it because we had a private conversation about what's happening with this 7 a.m. record. And
Yes.
if you're a Lil Uzi fan, you definitely know that record. A lot of people know it. I played it at clubs before. People know that song. And I actually didn't realize that either you or Lex Luger were involved in the creation of that track for a long time. I just recently found out about it this year. So
Wow.
we were talking about just the because it's on a mixtape. It's not on an official album, but obviously money's being generated from that track. I think a lot of people don't understand how that works. Producers, recording artists, they think, if you release something for free, it's free. But we know that you can monetize a track in all different types of ways, especially now. I think now more than ever, there are different income streams that are generating money off of a song, whether or not it's released commercially or whether or not it's put on iTunes. It could just be put on YouTube or Spotify. Money's being made. So
Yes.
you had to learn that, I guess, the hard way from this situation, correct?
Oh yes, definitely. Um, it's actually funny, Pain, because I mean I originally I'm a little Uzi Vert fan anyway, so it's like I've been trying to reach out to him since 2014. So it wasn't even a situation where I was even looking for money initially for the record. The producer DP Beats, he brought it to me. He was like, you know what I mean, what should be in my information and all that. I'm like, cool. Then come time, you know what I mean, how BMI has their scheduled payments. Around that time, because I reached out to him because, again, like you said, I was trying to monetize the record, like for streams, being that BMI that takes a long time. So I hit him up. He giving me, you know what I mean, a run around. That had me suspicious. So I looked into it, and that's how I discovered the BMI repertoire. And I seen that he had completely omitted me and Lex from the splits and had a 50-50 split between him and Uzi. And that opened up a whole new can of worms with that situation.
So I guess let me get this clear. So it was the track wasn't registered correctly. It didn't credit you and Lex Luger as composers on the publishing end.
Correct.
Were you still monetizing that track via Content ID?
I actually was, but you see, I was actually in a situation where I don't know if you ever heard of Repost Network.
Yeah, I've heard of them. I'm not really familiar with their inner workings.
Yeah, you see, I'd actually signed up for BeatStars a while back. And I wasn't familiar, you know what I mean, with how the Content ID worked. I couldn't have it on multiple networks. So I was actually going over the Repost Network from BeatStars. And that actually, you know what I mean, it led to a whole dispute, like with a lot of hands in that record. But as far as that was the situation with that. But I was able to, you know what I mean, monetize, but I kept getting disputed by BeatStars due to that content dispute.
How did that work then with BMI? Because that's an entirely separate world.
But what you see with BMI, the struggle I was having with BMI, and it was driving me insane. I was calling up to their offices and stuff. And at first, you know what I mean, I was initially getting ignored. I couldn't even get through to the office. And then when I finally did start getting in contact with people, I was being told I was false claiming the record. I didn't own rights to my record. Like, I needed some permission for my own record.
Yeah, that's definitely happened to me. I remember I did a record for Soulja Boy way back, and it came out on a mixtape. It didn't actually, it wasn't commercially released. It wasn't released through any distributor. It wasn't released through any label. I was getting my videos flagged just when I put I think I either put the song up or the beat up, and suddenly Universal Music had a claim against me.
It's crazy. It's crazy you mentioned Soulja Boy, because I have an extensive catalog with him. And there's a situation right now where I don't know if he signed his rights to somebody or somebody is claiming his rights, but there's actually music from him now. I'm actually in a situation with to see how I could collect that revenue off of the streams.
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing is we're both the creators of the track. And unless we actually sign over our rights via some kind of work for hire situation, which I doubt either of us would ever do without receiving some type of money, we still retain our rights to the master. Therefore, legally speaking, the labels can't just come in and claim all the Content ID money.
And see, I've ran into situations like that as well, because I'm a big SoundCloud user, and there's a lot of times I'll post a track and they'll let it go through initially, and then when it ends up on iTunes or something, I'm getting a copyright claim.
Yeah, because whatever aggregator they use, you know, CD Baby, Orchard, there's some other network that's annoying as hell. I forget, it starts with an A. But anybody who uploads, that happens to me, you know, even when I lease a track online, if a rapper records to that track and then puts it out through, say, CD Baby or TuneCore, and they don't actually whitelist me, and they claim that they own the whole record, next thing you know, I'm getting a copyright claim against me for having my own beat online, which is crazy because it's my beat, and they're taking the song and claiming that I'm violating their copyright. And you know, honestly, it's not the rapper's fault. I'm not blaming Soulja Boy for the situation with Universal. It's just that right now, I think this whole world of Content ID is really, it's the wild, wild west. So everybody's competing.
Yeah, it's crazy. As crazy as it gotta sound, I tell every producer that I meet that the playboy is actually the new method of payment. Because I mean, let's call it spade a spade. People just aren't buying beats.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. It kind of cut out.
I said, let's call a spade a spade. People just aren't buying beats as often as, you know what I mean, as they used to, unless you have that fan base like that.
Yeah, and you know, here's what I've been thinking about, just as a producer, thinking about how I'm gonna make money in the future. I don't know if you thought about this, but so recently I had a record, I produced a record, the label refused to pay me, right? They just refused because they do that type of stuff sometimes. Not gonna say names. The record was kind of big. It you know got millions of streams because it's from a high profile artist. And I was approached by a company that collects content ID based on publishing splits. And this is when we started having this conversation on Twitter, because I didn't know I could do that. I thought I either had to register it through content ID, how I've been doing with BeatStars, you know, because I get money for through BeatStars for content ID, but I control that system where I upload the tracks that I want them to put in their content ID system. This is something else where they're actually collecting on other artists' music based on my ownership percentage of that song. So, you know, if I produce the record, they're going to collect that 50% on a track that I didn't register myself, if that makes any sense. So they started collecting.
They call that administration publishing.
Yeah, but it's not actually, they're not going through the PROs. They're going through content ID. So that's why it was different to me, because I don't have a actual administration situation with a publishing company through some kind of traditional publishing deal. And that's what, to me, that's why it's so crazy, because there are all these sources of money now that aren't the traditional, you know what I mean? It's not just publishing, it's not just, I'm sorry, performance royalties, it's not just licensing money.
And this is gonna sound crazy, Pain, but like I've been sustaining off of my music for the past year or so, but I've never seen a performance of royalty payment.
See, and that's what I want to talk about. So what happened was with this situation, they sent me my first statement, and I realized if I had been pursuing this content ID money, if I had been doing that, you know, a year or two ago, the money that the label claimed they were going to pay me and didn't for the beat advance wouldn't have even mattered to me, because they were getting so many streams online that actually pays out. So it sounds like that's your main revenue stream, correct?
Yes, definitely. And and you gotta understand too, like I said, I have like over 100 records with Soulja Boy on top of like a ton of major artists. So the Lil Uzi Vert record that put everything over the top for me.
So, you know, in the future, given that everyone's talking about the industry and they're not paying for beats and this and that, and whether or not that's true, the fact that artists are putting out mixtapes and free releases that way more frequently than they did 5-10 years ago, that's undeniable. So for producers, you know, we're not getting paid when we get on the Soulja Boy mixtape or the Lil Uzi Vert. We're not getting in advance. So moving towards these new revenue streams, I wonder that content ID is not going to become the new advance or the new PRO system. You know what I mean? It's just, that seems like that's where a lot of the money's coming from now. If your song's not getting played on radio and you're not getting in advance because it's on a mixtape, all your money's going to come from streaming, and streaming is now becoming the dominant method of consuming music.
And to build off of that, that's why I've actually moved away from, you know what I mean, like trying to get the placements and all of that. I'm actually getting more into producing and curating my actual albums, like not even exactly like DJ Khaled, but like actually bringing artists of my choice together and like, okay, we're gonna sit down and build this project. Like I'm getting more hands on because of that factor, like you said. is becoming it's gonna get it's not as hard now because not as many people are hip to it. But I feel like once the labels start realizing how much money is actually being generated off of that, and how that's actually essentially a loophole around not getting that advance, it's gonna get a lot harder to collect on songs you produce, and you're gonna end up having to produce your own music anyway.
Yeah, I just wonder because right now, when you sign a producer agreement with a label, you don't sign a split sheet for content ID money. You know what I mean? That might be something. I think that's probably wrong.
But see, that has to actually be written in a contract because I know another producer. I'm not gonna mention names, but he actually produced a record that actually got leaked. And the term in the contract was they gave him the upfront money, but he couldn't collect anything off of the any third parties because he's actually on the same network I'm on. So he actually had to take that off of the content ID.
Okay, so they're now anticipating that. I guess they just put it under the category of third party collection or something like that, right?
Yes, yes.
Because I just wonder, nowadays there are so many producers and they're making money leasing beats online left and right, and some of them are taking advantage of content ID. But a couple of these records, and it probably Panda was the big one, but
yeah,
a couple of these other records, I interviewed Rick and Thaddeus last week, and they were talking about this record actually produced by them, but released by a Swedish label that I'm actually affiliated with pretty closely, and that track hit #1 on Spotify for I don't know how many weeks, and that was just off of YouTube. You know what I mean? So this is kind of the new. I don't know if it's going to become the new method of shopping beats, but it almost seems as though a lot of industry artists nowadays are just going on YouTube. Either the industry artists are going on YouTube getting these beats, or these up-and-coming artists are going on YouTube getting these beats, and then they get a viral hit, and then they become industry artists. So what advice would you give producers who are now coming up in that landscape to navigate that world?
I mean, I'm not gonna say don't put your art out, but I will definitely say maintain your publishing. Like your publishing is definitely the essential. Like that's like even if they say anything else, as long as you got your publishing, you're gonna get a percentage like off of that record. So that's my main thing, like maintain your publishing. But it's like apart from that, it's not too much you could do. But I mean, stay on top of the record for the most part. And I mean, you could try to reach out to the artists, you know what I mean, see if they want to handle business. If they don't do that, I mean, you could, there's channels to go directly, you know what I mean, around the artists. But it's harder that way, but it's always a way to collect your money, as long as you got your publishing.
So what's one of those ways to collect some of that money that's being generated off the streams?
I mean, you could use. I know a lot of people. There's I use Repost Network. And there's another one I've heard of called Song Trust. I know they collect for you. TuneCore actually collects for you. They have an admin publishing package. But those are the main ones I know that, you know what I mean, I've used it, that people around me have used personally. I can't speak for too much of any of the other services.
So here's something I've been asking producers that I interview. Can you tell about one of your damn that hurt moments? I guess we kind of been sharing them this whole time, but I shared one with Curtis King about basically blowing my chances of working with Lil B right before he really. So do you have a moment, where you maybe made a mistake but you learned from it, or maybe you didn't learn from it? I don't know what I learned from the situation other than that really sucked, but maybe you have a better, more cautionary.
A damn that hurt moment. Shit, man. Let me see. I got a lot of them, man. But I mean, the biggest one for me was probably no, I don't want to say this, but I'm gonna say the 7 a.m. record, man. Like it hurt for me because I actually took, you know what I mean, every route, you know what I mean, to get everything. I actually talked to Uzi directly, and the credits still weren't changed. But the biggest thing for me is when I called up the BMI, because they had a registration, like Lexus people, they had a registration with him, DP, and Uzi Vert. And I'm like, how is everybody except the person who started the record, you know what I mean, getting percentages and all of that? And then I called up the BMI, and they're telling me that I have to prove, you know what I mean, that I own a record I started. So it's one thing to be a part of something, you know what I mean, and then get left out. But to actually start something and to like every channel you go through to get this corrected is telling you no, you don't own this. So just saying that you don't is ludicrous, man.
So it sounds as though, and I know this isn't necessarily always something that can just be done easily, but it sounds as though a official split sheet could have saved you some of the trouble.
It could have saved me a year of my life, man. A whole year. I mean, apart from that though, like apart from that moment though, I actually sent the beats to an artist. He had been hitting me up for beats for months. Like, I didn't send him anything. But then the moment I finally sent him something, he dropped the tape and all that. I hit a tape. This dude cuts my tag off, and he essentially uses my beat as a snippet. Like I don't even get the placement or anything. That really hurt me.
Yeah, people think we're exactly, you know, because I'll talk about how crazy it is out here. Like, it can't be that bad. You know, producers and rappers are doing it to each other all the time. I don't know about all that. Anyway, 2017. On a more positive note, let's end this on a more positive note. What are some of the projects you're excited about in 2017 that you're involved in?
In 2017, well, I actually just dropped my first single. I'm playing my first album. It's actually gonna be an experimental electronic album, but I dropped the first single to that, I want to say last week. I have another two that from that album that I'm dropping in June, an EP for September, and then the album in December. But apart from that, some of the projects I'm involved in, now I'm mostly more into TV now, but like some of the projects with the TV side is like National Geographic, definitely. I'm working on a film with them. I've been submitting stuff for movies. Like I submitted music for Fast State that didn't get chosen, so I'm expecting more of those types of opportunities. And then on the artist side, it's not too many artist albums I'm working on except for probably like Waka Flocka. Like me and Lex just been working. I'm at locking in on that. But I mean, apart from that, it's just mostly whatever happens.
Okay, so we should be looking out for new records from Waka Flocka then in 2017.
Oh yeah, Flocka, y'all getting that raw Flocka back. That's all I can say.
All right, I say that's a good place to end the interview. Appreciate you on social media and SoundCloud.
You can all of my social media is at Xay Scott. You know what I mean?
XAY
Yes. I'm not really too active on social media, but the main things I am active on is Twitter, SoundCloud, and Instagram. That's all as Xay Scott.
That's what's up, man. Thank you again for having an honest conversation with me about everything that's going on.
Hey, man, no problem, man. It's just a lot of I see a lot of producers, you know what I mean? Like I don't like the mudsling or anything, but I see a lot of producers looking up to a lot of people and worshiping a lot of people that's handling business shady. You know what I mean? And any way I could get my story out, you know what I mean, to have another person not go through that, I have no problem doing that.
Yeah, I've tried that with a couple of people, Sarah J, for example. But you know, I'll stop the broadcast. I don't know